Hey everyone! So today, as promised, I have the second version of the Abus GDS. This is what it looks like on the outside. It's just an oval lock. It doesn't have any particularly special markings. But as I mentioned in the other video, there are two versions of this particular lock. So I picked one earlier that was trees and tapered pins. And this one, as you can probably see, is all barrel pins. So the plugs are very similar in that there is no milling, but they do have this flattened section. I think for this lock, that flattened section actually provides a little bit of interaction with these barrels because you can lift them, and I want to say they can fall into this flattened section and get caught between the plug and the lock housing. But it's not anywhere near like having real barrel milling. So still relatively easy to pick in comparison to something that had proper barrels and matched milling on them. As mentioned in the other video, this one had a trapezoidal keybow. The one that had trees and tapereds had a square keybow. I don't know if that relationship holds true with all of these or not. I did order 25 or so of these from a retailer as a single item, and I got mostly barrels, but some of them were trees and tapereds. And the part number was the same, as I mentioned in the other video. So other than looking at the key, I have not been able to determine if there is a way to figure out which version is which. I don't know if Abus intentionally pinned them two different ways. I don't know if one was an older model and one's a newer model. I'm not really sure what happened, but that's kind of how it worked. I do think that the barrel version, which is mostly what I got in that order, is a little bit harder just because the feedback is subtler, and the barrels, as I mentioned, do interact a little bit better. This one took me a little while longer to figure out, but I think that was partly because of the bitting on this particular version. These two right here, number 2 and number 2 and number 5, are almost no lift, and I think if you tapped those or lifted them, you basically overset them. So that was the biggest hurdle for me, rather than trying to figure out, I guess, how to deal with the barrels within this particular lock. So with that, I'll get over to the pick and gut. It's pretty fast. But yeah, that's an Abus GDS. And again, this is the barrel version. All right, as mentioned, here is the other Abus GDS. This one does have barrels in it. So let's go ahead and get this picked real quick. So this one, the feedback is a little subtler as compared to the one that has trees, although I did just get a little false set there. And this one, the bitting is a little different, and it actually has a couple pins that if I touch them and they overset, picking is basically over. Alright, there we go, that is open. Again, I forgot to do the key beforehand, but there's the bitting on this one. So you can see 2 and I think 5 are basically 0 lift or 0 lift, but the key does work. And again, as mentioned, this one has barrels and it has the trapezoidal keybow versus the one I had that had trees and that has a square keybow. So that may be the way you can tell the difference. Alright, so I got that picked relatively fast. I've been practicing on that one though, so that would be why. But let's get it gutted real quick here. these off. Let's get a follower. Whoa, that was almost a tragedy. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. What did okay. Let me get the drivers out. Whoops, a little short barrel on one. Very short barrel on 2. Surprise visit from a cat. Okay. Apologies. Let's get the rest of this gutted. Three. 4. 5 and 6. So you can see this one as compared to the other GDS I had. Very different pinning. This one is all barrels. But if you look at the plug, somewhat similar. No milling in the plug itself. But it does have this flattened section at the top, which hopefully you can see there. A little bit of flattening, which works somewhat to catch those barrels, but not super effective. So there you go. That is the second type of Abus GDS that I've seen. This one had all barrels as opposed to trees and tapereds. Maybe a little more difficult when I was initially learning it. Obviously that pick was pretty fast, but I've been practicing on this one, so that would account for that. But I would say a little bit more difficult to learn, just especially because some of these oversets were very easy to do and required you to completely reset the lock if you missed them. So, all right, there we go. Thanks for watching.